Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Energy Speaks Back, powered by B2B Energy. My name is Paul Webb, and I'm the founder of B2B Energy, and I'm your host. And weekly, I present to you energy experts from around the world. Welcome to episode 137. And our purpose, as always, is to provide a good understanding of energy management knowledge from around the world, which is available today for us to deliver savings that impact on our planet. We would like to thank utility people who are creating a better career and future for people in our industry, and Esther Energy, who are our certificate partners. Welcome, energy enthusiasts, to another enlightening episode of Energy Speaks Back. And today's guest, I proudly call the dynamic duo of Net Zero. These exceptional individuals are at the forefront of delivering effective net zero processes, aiding businesses in saving money and attaining their carbon reduction goals. So without any further ado, let's dive into the conversation with Jon Mullen and Laura Short. Good afternoon, Jon and Laura. How are you both today?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Quite chilly, but good.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about the cold. Far too cold today.
We're British. We have to talk about the weather.
Yeah. And I've just come back from Thailand, so you can imagine I've gone from 36 to more or less zero.
Yes.
Significantly cold.
Yeah. And I was at a business network meeting at 6 o'clock this morning, and everybody was complaining about scraping the ice.
Well, they must have been scraping it at 5 o'clock to be in the meeting for 6 or 7. Yeah. Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Yes. Typical British. And it is, I think every year I feel it's colder. I don't know about yourself. Do you feel it's getting colder? Do you think we've got this climate change thing happening?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to not see the extreme weather events. I think the cold's getting colder, the hot's getting hotter, and the difference between the two is just getting more and more extreme. The floods that we're seeing in the Midlands, the extreme weather events that we're seeing around the globe is all just pointing towards the fact that global warming is there. It's not going away. Yeah. And unless we do something about it, it's just going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you guys have got together and you're working towards those, exactly what you're saying here. We've got to do something about it. So that's brilliant. And we're going to hear more about that today. So thank you for joining us. I don't normally interview two people, but I have done, so don't worry. It'll be all right on the night, as they say. Yeah. So I'm going to come to you first. So, Jon, for the benefit of the audience today, could you give us some your background, your origin story, and see if you can sort of bring it into Laura as well at the same time?
Okay. Going way back, I actually started off as a commercial electrician. And I did an apprenticeship in that. But as I was working through that, I realized actually there's no way I'll last in this business unless I'm running the business. Some of the guys were old, even though they were only 30, 35. So I went and did software and telecommunications. And got into the railway business, doing customer information systems. So if you go on the likes of the Jubilee Line extension, the London Underground, the information system, that was me. I was playing with that 20 years ago.
The stuff you see on the platforms?
Yes. All of the platform information, all of the train running information, the arrivals, delays, all of that. There's even been myself playing noughts and crosses on, the old ticker boards.
Yeah.
On the main arrivals up in Glasgow railway station at 3 o'clock in the morning, and just trying to work out how that old system worked to force it to connect to a new system. So got into IT, spent 20, 25 years in IT. Seems like a short time, seems like a long time. But then I got made redundant, and I was looking for something different. The juices weren't running still with IT. So I ended up refurbishing houses, going back to my electrical skill set.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started to get into selling energy. And then I realized, oh, I can combine my customer skills and helping, because I always preferred having the time to help businesses progress and work out what was the best solution for them.
Right.
So more systems analysis, business consultancy, and combining that with carbon footprinting. Oh, I'm actually really enjoying myself.
I can imagine.
So,
and then you met me.
Yeah.
So I've been an environmental consultant for the last 15 years. I've always done this kind of work, working on resource efficiency programs, predominantly government funded ones in the early days, helping small businesses through grant funded programs to reduce their resources. And then later on, starting my own business. And I've been doing that for the last 5 or 6 years now, helping customers to implement ISO standard management systems, whether that's 14001, 9001, whatever demand that they have within that business. But as well as that, also running the small business award scheme called Green at Heart. And that's kind of where Jon and I started bumping into the same clients. He was helping them with the brokerage. I was helping them with their award scheme. And it became a point where actually we were meeting the same clients. We were talking to the same people. And we thought, this is getting a bit silly. We were constantly referring backwards and forwards between each other. So why don't we just combine? And that was when Clearly Net Zero came about. We decided we were going to combine the two elements of our own businesses with a carbon footprinting masterclass program, which is now Clearly Net Zero.
Yes. So it's
predominantly you was doing this in the north, but your client base must spread all over the UK, yeah?
Yes, especially where the contracts for energy is concerned. We service people from the south coast to Aberdeen, but it's this whole thing of, is the client in the right mindset that they want to start to use the information that we start to gather through the carbon footprinting to actually do resource management and business intelligence, so that they can see, wow, we can actually make more money just by reducing the slight differences of temperature on your heating system. Yeah. The biggest one is 99 times out of 100, whenever I come across a care home or a group of care homes, they haven't analyzed what their actual needs are against what their cost expenditure is. And whenever you start to train them and help them to look at what they have and how they want to run it, then all of a sudden you start to see, oh wow, we can actually be in control of the system instead of the system controlling us.
Yeah, exactly. Now, did your sort of relationship start to build when you during lockdown? Because I seem to see you more and more in lockdown doing your videos, because you're very similar to myself, but we like to give back. We're constantly giving information, and you two become a bit of a, the stars in the lockdown on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
a double act, not in the same room, obviously, because of social distancing, but
yeah, and it became a way for us to keep in contact with our clients without being able to be there physically with them, because a lot of my job beforehand was very much visiting clients, being within their business. It's very difficult to audit a business if you're not actually in there, because you can't really see around. Although I've done a few virtual audits where people have walked around with iPads and shown me things around the business. But we did have to adapt very quickly. And the referrals obviously were still there, but they had to change. And the conversation then became, well, what else can we offer to our clients if we're not physically able to be there with them? And that became the organic growth of the webinars and the videos that we did, starting from our very first one that ran on for over 20 minutes, and we were padding it out to the nth degree. And now we realise that actually keep it short, keep it simple, and
people only
just
listen to about 60 seconds.
Exactly. And just put those top tips across to businesses.
Which are valuable.
Refined.
And LinkedIn has become a valuable platform to share that information, hasn't it? So did your business widen across the UK? Did it become a little bit more global? Because this is a global challenge, isn't it? Net zero.
Not really.
We've tended to retain quite a Northwest-based client base, but our audience, definitely the people that watch the YouTube channel and the webinars, we are getting clients sort of logging in to watch those from much further afield, but our client base does tend to be more Northwest. Also for our own carbon footprint, we don't want to be driving here, there and everywhere, because we like to practice what we preach. If we get clients further afield, we will aim to do as much of that online as possible, because otherwise we're not really sticking to what we say our clients need to do. But we've had a few international visitors to the YouTube channel.
Jon, you mentioned mindset, and I think that's a quite a valid point there, and understanding the client's mindset. How are you seeing that? Are organizations bought into the net zero approach, or are they thinking, it's 2050, I'm not going to worry about that?
Being really blunt and honest, there is a very low percentage who are concentrating, who are focusing on carbon net zero. There's far, far more people concentrating on cost. We actually have two websites. There's Energy Price Saver and there's clearly Net Zero, but there's also Energy Evangelist as well. But we specifically went out of our way to do two different websites because they're talking to different sets of people. One set is only focused on price, and we actually get more people through that rather than clearly net zero. We get people coming through that, and then the two sets realize that, it's the same product set that we're offering, but we're just talking in a different way and showing them that you should be able to save money, save resources, stop burning things just for the sake of getting rid of them. How about making an assessment? Are those resources worth anything to put back into a circular economy? So it's helping them change their perspective. And again, these are the things which I'm really enjoying helping people to grab hold, because I really do believe it's a complete change of mind. And I think whenever we're hitting 2030, we will look back and think, wow, where have we come from?
I definitely think there's a link between the type of mindset that a business has and the approach that they want to take. You tend to find that those that are reactive are only looking at the price side of things. Oh, we need to save money and we need to do it now.
Yeah.
Whereas those businesses that are maybe more proactive, they see net zero as something to aim for now rather than something to just hang on and wait around and see if it really affects us in the future. And they come through the net zero carbon footprinting side of things. So it's very much dependent on what a business's trigger is as to how we approach them as well. And we like to be quite adaptive in the way that we work with our clients, because no two businesses are the same.
No.
Everyone has different goals, different motivators. And I think the way that we do business is quite different from other people, because we treat each business individually. Although our product may be the same, our approach and our way of working with that business is very different.
Yeah. Where do you think the challenges are? Because for me, I do net zero work as well, and my challenge is obviously one, educating the organisation, because it's very complex when you start breaking down scopes 1, 2, and 3. And trying to explain what scopes 3 are, and we rely on. Where do you believe your challenges are?
Scope 1 and 2 is actually really run of the mill.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, yes, there's a lot of fine tuning in that area, because it is all about saving internal resources. Or thinking about how you use resources, internal, external, whatever. But scope 3, an awful lot of that is actually to do with, okay, assess your supplier chain.
Yeah, and also gathering the data as well.
Yeah.
Because it can be a little bit more arbitrary in terms of what information you're collecting and which elements of scope 3 you're adding into your business. It tends to be those parts of the business that people don't necessarily think of first, and therefore don't regularly collect data in the same way that they would with an energy bill or a water bill. Because it's not always as tangible, you can't really get hold of a bill and go, this is how much it's costing. People tend to forget about how much stationery they've ordered, or where does their waste go? Can we audit the full circular process of that? How many cans have we thrown away? It really does come down to those nitty-gritty things. But I'm never afraid of asking those questions of, what do you do with that? Where does it go? Tell me how you do this. And I suppose that's the auditor in me. But we will get to find the data eventually. It just takes a bit longer with scope 3.
Yeah, it's just a longer process.
Yeah. And as organizations start to do all of this, you'll be able to rely on their scope 3 information. So the more and more we go down that journey, the more and more information is going to come back. It's going to be easier, because at the moment we're having to use, say, purchase ledger to understand who our suppliers are and what they're, that is only as good as a line in the sand, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah. It's very much a guesstimate.
Exactly, but it's a starting point. It's the best we've got at the moment, unfortunately. But as this goes down, it's not nearer and nearer 2050, but as more and more people go on this journey, which has to happen, it'll be easier and easier for us to do this.
Yeah, I think it's we're still waiting for solid standards against which to measure and which to report against. And the sooner those come, the better, because it will make people realize, this is something solid which we can work to. There's still a little bit too much of, you interpret it one way and we interpret it another way. It actually has to get to a state where it's on the same standard as an accountancy audit.
So we have the PAS document currently. I may get these numbers wrong. 2060 we're using. That really makes me smile, because we've got to go and buy that document, even though it's a public advisory document. Got to go out and spend nearly £300 on that document, which is, I think, is a bit of a cheap situation, really. I'm not here to be political today, but But so we've got the PAS, which is the starting point. We need that to become an ISO document going forward, or a British standard, to really help us with that challenge.
And they need to get it right the first time as well. They need to not do what they did.
You cannot be what world are you in? They never get it right first
time. Optimistic life where we don't have the health and safety trauma of switching to 45,000 and making that an ISO standard. We need to get this one sorted so it follows the same structure as everything else.
Okay, well,
we'll get there.
We'll get there. Yes.
Yes, she's a little bit more pedantic than I am. I'm more a bit realistic of what we can do.
Jon used to work for the British Transport, so he used to have a saying, "We're getting there." Is that right? The saying used to be, "We're getting there."
Slowly, very slowly. Oh, we've stopped. Oh, we're moving again.
Oh, good. That's what we like to see.
It's the destination that matters, Jon.
Yes.
That's a very good point. It's not how we get there. We need to get there, obviously. But where do you think organization triggers? What's going to trigger all these organizations to start? Obviously, we've had certain changes within the energy crisis that have triggered everyone to look at the price and cost. One of my organizations had a 400% increase in their energy.
Oh, yes.
When that went live, they were all over me, to come and help them save energy, where before they used to just shrug their shoulders. Now, so we've got those as triggers, which is not a good thing, but it's something. Where do you think our triggers are going to be for net zero? Where's our triggers there?
I think it's got to come from government legislation. It needs to be mandatory for reporting on net zero, and not just for the big businesses. This needs to very quickly trickle down through the supply chain to large SMEs as well. And it needs to be a case that if you are applying for green finance, that you not only submit your financial accounts, but you submit your environmental accounts as well, and that your carbon footprint or carbon plan needs to be part of that. But I think everybody's pain point in business is very different, and it's going to come to a point where people are tired of making a choice between what they want and what they need within their business based on what they can afford, because prices are going up astronomically. We're going to get to a critical point where we see businesses having to make those unfortunate choices, and then they're going to think, right, we need to do something about it. What is there that we can do? And that is why Jon and I focus the majority of our work on we can save you money, as opposed to we can provide you with this fancy carbon footprint that will make you compliant in 30 years time. We want to make sure that businesses are ready to we do the process as we would, but to save the money now, because I think that's the triggering point for so many businesses.
But I've also seen in the service supply chain, we went to a brokerage conference. So, every single person in the room was selling water, gas, and electric commercially. And they were talking about carbon net zero. And the speaker went, okay, how many of you are actually implementing this for your clients? And I was the only one who put up my hand.
Wow.
Out of 150. There's brokers who are helping clients, but they're only interested in making money on the contracts. They're not expanding the level of their services. It is really difficult to get them to go beyond what they already know. And I honestly think there's going to be a new breed of brokers again in the next 5 years, because the old ones will go, can't be bothered.
Too much.
Yeah. They're riding the wave as far as they can, and then all of a sudden it's going to flop.
Yeah, too much for them. So, Jon, it brings me on to a question that's been bubbling around in my head. So, you're training organizations in the net zero approach. Have you considered, or are you training brokers and energy experts down into that route? Because there's not enough of us, is there, out there?
No.
There's not enough energy consultants to go and deliver energy management. And the energy management is, I think I've read and I actually posted, so that energy management is 40% of your net zero approach. So we need more energy managers out there delivering this. So we haven't got, so if we've got not enough energy managers, we surely haven't got enough net zero.
Yeah.
We're pivoting that way.
I really agree with that. It's people with experience, but it's not necessarily that they need the experience in the small sector of just energy management. It's I actually, maybe it's because of where I come from, but it's more business analysis, systems analysis. If you can apply systems analysis, you can apply it across multiple spheres. And it's helping people realize that sometimes the really simple stuff is so effective. So why don't we do it? People are still sticking their head in the sand. Oh, we don't have the resources. But if they're able to pick somebody with a bit of common sense, they can actually do a reasonably good job, and then they can see savings, and then they can start to put money into that to invest to see more savings. So it's proving the cycle for them.
And asking the awkward questions as well.
Yeah.
Not accepting what a business has always done, because the amount of times I've heard, well, that's how we've always done it. I'd be a rich lady if I had £1 for every time I'd heard, well, that's always the way we've done it. And it's just saying, well, why? Just ask the question, why do you do it that way? And if there's a legitimate reason, then that's absolutely fine. But 99 times out of 100, there really isn't.
Exactly. You're right.
And it can be a very small change to a process that yields a huge cost saving.
Yeah.
So going back to that question as well. So are you evolving your business to train other experts into what you're doing? Because you do training as well in this sector.
Yes, there's the options there, but at the moment I don't feel that there's the willingness there.
I don't think there's enough pull on the market for that at the moment. As long as you're ready to do that, I think you're in a good place to do that, because there's lots of consultants out there. I've been doing net zero stuff, believe it or not, for 2 years. Not knowing that I was doing net zero in the beginning. We was just putting together carbon footprints. It's just evolved more and more into the net zero approach. But I've had to, it's funny you say about the business approach. So John, you're going to smile. I was also an electrician. So I feel your pain with them older people around me, training me as an apprentice. I found myself sort of going through energy management, etc. And then I think my skills are, I've managed a business for 18 years. So it's that business management to sort of understand. So when I mentioned purchase ledger, energy consultants don't necessarily know that wording and what they can do with that information. So we do need to take a step back and look at how we approach this. And it is 90% common sense with everything, what we're doing here.
Yeah.
With all what we do.
I think there's it's a bit like 25 years ago, whenever I first started in IT, there was so many jobs out there, and just trying to find the right niche. But I had good basic principles from the university course that I did, mixture of telecoms and software, and also driving of real-time interfaces and devices. if you give somebody a good foundation, actually they can go for miles going beyond that. So if we're able to give them a good foundation of application into into uh, slotting it into the business, then actually those people go so far. I got real hopes, but I really do believe that there's a bit of a hole in there at the moment of people who they might know about carbon net zero, they might know about sustainability, but it's the application into the business world and helping them find solutions for the individual businesses. That's actually really valuable.
Yeah.
Laura mentioned about government funding and things. What is there out there for organisations to pull on government funding? And by the looks of that face, probably not a lot.
Yeah, there isn't a lot, and it's very regionally dependent.
Right.
There's no central government fund at the moment for businesses to actually follow this kind of route. There are regional funds that allow businesses to access things either via sort of local education or apprenticeship schemes. But the thing that Jon and I get very passionate about is if it's worth doing within your business, spend the money on it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't put in a second-rate heating system if you knew that a better one was going to save you money. So pay for the journey, pay for the accreditation, and the cost savings will be of much greater value to you because you know that it's worth having. And
I just feel the level that's being provided at the moment is very, very low.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked on funded programs and sometimes we couldn't even give away the free stuff. And the question we always got was, well, what's it worth? Because generally people see if something's free, it's of a much lower value. And we would see businesses going to consultancies paying 5-10 times the price for the same information that we could provide, but because the perceived value of ours was much lower because it was free. And we need to get out of thinking that either we'll just do the easy bits, pay for the process, do it properly, and just do it the once. Because this is something that's going to last you for the rest of your business's lifetime.
Yeah, it got to the stage where we actually turned around and said, we need to put in the course, the masterclass, which we do, runs for 12 months. We put in a 12-month guarantee and said, if you're not saving money, then, and for the complete cost of the course, then, we will pay you back.
Wow.
Because they have to see the value to want to commit somebody of influence, preferably at director level, to actually come on a course and take the time to work on the business. It's business development. It's making the changes for the future. People who can actually push through decisions and help them grow. It should be a massive change for their business.
So the government's not putting money behind this, but do you think they're putting enough commitment and legislation and drive? Poor Rishi Sunak, he took a step back, didn't he?
Yes.
But if you listen to the whole of that speech, it isn't really. It was just a bit more of a sensible view on it, in my personal opinion. But do you think they could be doing something different about this? Is there anything that the government should be doing something different towards this approach?
I mean, in my opinion, yes, it was a dilution of the overall goal, which was very unfortunate, and I do think the wrong step to have taken.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot more pressure that should be put on businesses to make these changes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that also not including public sector within this is a big mistake. There's a lot of money that can be saved from council-owned buildings.
Significant amounts,
yeah, and you know, they haven't had to comply with things for quite a long time. They've got away with wasting a lot of money and a lot of energy. And I think if we included public sector within this, we would see some much bigger results. And I think that's a mistake that the government have made.
Yeah, and that's what we need. We need some results and big results.
Yes, we do.
So it's come to that time of the interview. It's gone really quick. I must really
as usual.
It's come to that time of the interview where I like to put you guys even on the spot even further. And I talked to you about this before. Is there anything you guys can give back, whether it be individually or as a team here? Is there anything you can give back as a takeaway for our listeners today?
I think even just as a first step, start to be really critical of what you're paying. As soon as the bill comes through, start to analyze it. Try and make some sense of it, because that's where the pain hits the roads whenever the money has to come out of your pockets. So even if it's just trying to track your invoices, what's going on? What was the temperatures like? What was the weather like? What was going on in the business? Did the business increase? Did we add a new warehouse? All of these things. But it's this whole thing of you need intelligence to make the right decisions. And as soon as you have or start to see that intelligence, actually, more than likely, you'll want to invest more in that area so that you've got an even clearer vision, because usually it's still really hazy whenever you're doing it yourself on a spreadsheet. But whenever you start to use tools, it really starts to clarify, and it allows you to ask questions. We want your business to make the right decision. And if you make the right decision, we've got you as a client for life. And whether you come back to us or not, okay, I don't mind. But at least you're making good decisions. And I want to see your business still up and running in 10 years' time.
Yeah. Because this is your third largest expense, as I always say. It is a big part of your business that you're going to be focusing on. Yeah. Is it anything you want to add to that, Laura?
I mean, Jon loves the data. We've all gathered that.
Don't we all?
But I'd just kind of add to that by saying, don't be afraid to go back to basics. Solar panels are great and biomass boilers are wonderful, and having an electric fleet is really great for advertising. But is your door wide open? Are your windows open and the heating's on? Like, let's not forget the small things that make a big difference and help you to reinvest through those savings. There's no point operating your office or your warehouse at a loss and then trying to stick solar panels on the roof to make that money back. Like, let's just look at the basics, get those sorted first before we move on to the nice, sexy stuff at the end. We all want to move into those green technologies, and we're not anti-green technology by any stretch of the imagination. But what we want to do is make sure that a business is operating as efficiently as it can before we then look at adding on those extras.
I think to give you a bit of an example, there's a holiday company and they own, is it 10
Yeah.
holiday parks? 1,200 holiday lodges. And the data is all over the place. And it is so difficult to grab hold of what's actually going on in this business. But they're looking at the big shiny things, the solar panels, the EV chargers, all of that. But if they went with their basic measurement, I believe that they would be a far, far more effective and efficient company. And I think they would be more pleased if they could get hold of that. Yeah. And we've told them lots of times.
I've had the many conversations what you're saying here. And it always starts with, my boss has come to me and he wants me to put solar on the roof. Okay. Do you know how much you're spending on your energy? No. Do you review your bills? No. Well, so we start looking at that first of all. Let's start recording that and understanding where we are. And I always say, my saying to them is that energy management is a journey. We need to take baby steps. Don't just go and put solar on your roofs, because that, as you said, Laura, it's going to hide all the different things that you're losing. But at the same time, the solar is going to be massive. We don't need this big lump of solar on the roof. We only probably need half of it, because we're wasting it all. We're just going to be using the sun to waste more energy. And that isn't what we need to be doing, is it?
Yeah.
No, and I mean, even taking that one step further, that, looking at these kind of things and looking at your bills in a consumption basis rather than just a cost basis opens up not just energy. There is so much to our carbon footprint over and above energy. You might actually find that isn't your biggest expense at all, and that it's waste or water, depending on what your business is and your process is. Yeah. But I think people get fixated on energy being the most expensive thing and our biggest cost. But if you start collecting the data and start analysing it, you might find that it's not, and you need to put your focus elsewhere. But without that business intelligence and without analysing that data, you haven't got a clue, and you're just throwing money at anything.
So you said Jon loves data, but I think you love it more.
I try to deny it, but I do.
Well, Jon and Laura, I'd like to say thank you very much for joining me on this on my podcast. It's been a real pleasure. You're doing a brilliant job. Even as an energy expert, I follow you and I listen to what you guys have got to say, because it's the industry. So well done for that. Don't stop. Keep it going.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And likewise back to you as well. We're all learning off each other.
Exactly. And lastly, please, you and your families, stay safe in these times.
And likewise.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.